Thank y'all for being here. My name is Donovan. I'm a public policy master's student graduating this semester. What brings me here is the topic. I love discussing things about men, particularly Black men, things that can bring us together, bring us more unity, kind of that can help us find peace within ourselves and amongst each other. So that's what brings me here. And what made me happy this week is probably the weekend being right around the corner. So I'm looking forward to resting this weekend. So I'll pass it off to you, Keon.
All right, yeah. So my name is Keon Harris. For you guys who don't know me officially, I'm a current undergraduate student here, but I'll be starting as a joint doctoral student in the fall in social work and developmental psych, and I'm the current project manager for YBMen. So kind of facilitating and coordinating things with Javon right now, and so that's what really brought me here and what I'm happy about. I just celebrated a birthday Tuesday, so I'm 23. So just to be here another year is great. So I can't complain. And I'll pass it to you, Jarrell.
For sure. My name is Jarrell, pronouns he, him. I am a third year doctoral student in higher ed, and I'm studying campus policing and how students of color conceptualize safety on campus. And what brought me here? I always look for opportunities to connect with other Black men. Unfortunately, there's not too many in my program or in the School of Education or really University of Michigan broadly. So any opportunities I can get to connect with y'all and other folks because we out here and we're doing good work, and it's always really affirming to just to have some conversations around masculinity, around emotions, around mental health, etc. And exciting. My partner is 35 weeks pregnant, so we're expecting really soon here. And I am just so excited for the arrival of my daughter and to get to know her, to get to meet her, and to learn a lot about fatherhood because I'm, about to learn a whole lot here.
I can go ahead and take over. Congratulations, Joel. That's exciting. And just to kind of like piggyback on that, I'll start off with my exciting. I actually just came back from home, which is LA. And I went home because I was visiting my brother, who also just had a daughter. So, it kind of all just blends together perfectly. Um, so for myself, my name is Lloyd. I'm a fourth year PhD in physiology. And what really brings me here is essentially I've just been trying to find community. That's kind of been real difficult for me being here in Michigan. Just like Joel said, there's really no other Black men in my program or even at the faculty level. So it's kind of hard to find other people to connect with. So fortunately, this has kind of started to help like fill that void basically.
Touch on one, success, two, emotions, and three, the isms. We might not have time for all three of them, but we're going to do the best we can to lay the questions out there, kind of hear what you have to say, in hopes to not only prepare ourselves, but to also get us to guys out there as well who are thinking about these same things but may not have maybe the language, the space, or the ability to kind of talk about some of these topics. So when were you last successful, right? What do you consider as success, and when was that like last successful thing for you?
Success is something I've been thinking a lot about in this doctoral program because it's I'm trying to shift away from having success be externally defined because it's been a challenging couple of years in graduate school, trying to figure out I feel like success has been a moving target, right? I feel like I'm at the same time I'm doing a lot and I'm not doing enough. And that has been this kind of back and forth forever. I think not externally defined. When I think about more internally defined, the last time I really felt successful was when I had like a breakthrough in therapy. And I didn't really start going consistently until, a couple of years ago when I started graduate school. And the reason I went was because I was really stressing myself out to the point where I actually fainted one time. It wasn't my heart, it wasn't my brain or anything. It was literally just stress and dehydration. So that for me was like a moment where I had to really reevaluate everything and how I was defining success. And started going to therapy. And I think like that was really the start of me beginning to define it more internally.
Graduate school now, something I've tried to do a lot is just be present. Like where I am right now, I think is just the most important versus worrying about, what's going to happen when I get to graduate school and thinking if I'm going to be successful or not. I think just the best thing I can do is just be able to support myself through that. So
Really thinking about a lot of the therapy notes because I also started going to therapy now that I had access here in graduate school and never had access before. And I think it's been very helpful for me because during my graduate program, much like everyone else, we've all had to deal with the pandemic. But I was also dealing with a pretty bad breakup at the time too. So I think what I could define as success in that sense was also willing to submit to the idea of doing therapy, which is like not really even the idea of submission, but like finally being willing to accept it and realize that it's something that's helpful for me, right? And it has been just nothing but helpful. And now that I've been doing it for, I don't know, about a year now, I look forward to every single session that I go to. Every time I'm done with it, I walk away feeling so much better. And it's just been something that I try to recommend to everyone.
Now, when we think about success, I feel like we had to define it for ourselves. I think a lot of men, particularly, but people in general, we kind of get off track when we're like, oh, they're doing that over there and they're successful, like putting a sort of like mile marker on what success is and what it should look like. And I think particularly a lot of what y'all said, it should really be the internal, like what is success, what does it look like to yourself? How do you define it for yourself? And that's different for everybody. Like for me, I'm like, I'll look at other people, or at least I used to before like the therapy journey, before a lot of the books and the podcasts and the reading, I'll be like, oh, I need to get like them. They're successful or they got it figured out, or they're making X amount of dollars, or they're working, XYZ job. So that must mean they're successful. And then I'll talk to the people and they're like, no, I'm not really that happy, or, oh, this is not what I wanted out of life, or this is not how I put my life going. And it took time for even myself to realize that, wait a minute, I can define my own success. Right? I'll talk to people, like I'll talk to friends now, and they're like, nah, graduating college, that was success for me. So now I'm just kind of enjoying life as it goes, right? Being in the moment, being present, like I was mentioned earlier. How do we go kind of day by day and recognizing that success is like ever changing? So that brings me to my next question for the group. As a man, how are you thinking about success? Right? This is like, YBM, our audience is mostly going to be Black men. So how are we thinking about that context of masculinity and success as well?
I've been grappling with a lot right now has been financial success, right? Because I've been basically raised from a family that did not have any type of financial stability. And I am now at the best quality of life that I've been able to set up for myself. But I'm saying that as a graduate student. And when I look around and compare that to all my friends that have been finished for quite some time, they're definitely in much, much more comfortable positions. And I think the challenge for me is that I feel like I'm an older graduate student. Like I just turned 30 this year and I'm ready to move on with my life and also kind of like start making some money. Let's be real, right? Like that's the idea. And I've been having to really tell myself and like hone in on this idea that although I might not have the money that I would like and have the financial success that I want right now, I'm still at the best position I've ever been in my life. And I'm just moments away from finally like cracking that barrier essentially. But it's definitely difficult to grapple with that idea.
Particularly Black men want to tie their worth so much to the finances and their success so much to the finances.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, for me personally, it's always just been being able to provide. Like whenever I go back home now, which I just came back from, it's like, damn, I have been able to build myself up to where I'm at now and I'm living a bit more comfortably, but my family isn't quite there yet. And I know like I can help them soon. Like it's very, very soon. I want to be able to provide that for them. And then eventually being able to like have a partner, provide for my partner, have a family. Like it all just comes into the idea of being able to provide as a man realistically. At least that's for me.
All of that super resonates for me. For me, it's like it's back to family and providing. Like one thing my partner and I always talk about is how we're really trying to break, patterns like generations of like trauma and poverty and all this stuff, and how we really feel like we have this opportunity to do that, right? I'm getting this PhD hopefully soon here, and she's getting her MSW, and I think for me, particularly like having, a daughter in a couple weeks here, like that's of course on my mind, and I want to be able to make sure that she, doesn't have to struggle, and we don't have to struggle. And I feel like so I have three younger brothers, and as the oldest of four boys, I feel like I've always taken on this responsibility to help and provide and kind of be that person. And in many ways, I'm still doing that. Like I had a brother who lived with me when he was 14 and 15 for, like a year and a half, a handful of years ago. And I wish I had more funds to be able to help support like my parents, my brothers. So yeah, I think for me, it always just goes back to this sense of responsibility that I really feel like I have, and in therapy, I'm working on that to think about like what is um, an appropriate level of responsibility, and like what's within my control, what's outside of my control. But I think still that will always be inside of me of like feeling like I need to help when I can, and finance is a huge part of that.
I'm the youngest, so I always had examples of seeing of what not to do, essentially. And so it almost makes you like hyper vigilant in a way of like, I got to get it right, and get everything all in order. And so just having that like added pressure to yourself, I think is something that I'm still trying to learn to manage at 23. And I can only imagine once I get to your level of family and trying to build your own life, of what the added pressure that adds.
The oldest, and I've had to redefine my relationship to finances. Like, how we grew up. We have a big family, so how we grew up, I always thought like, I gotta save money. I gotta like, say I gotta make sure I have money, make sure I can like help out people when I can, help out when I need to. But I had to redefine it, growing up in terms of kind of how you were talking about responsibility, right? You want to be able to help people and provide for people, but it is the balance between, you can't help everybody. And then how do you also make sure you're helping yourself as well?